Welcome to Down the Road. We've got a lot of issues we want to talk about today and touch on. We're going to visit in just a second with Jim Shaw. Jim Shaw is a friend and somebody I respect a lot when it comes to media and how he's dealt with himself and whoever he's worked with on a professional basis. Journalist is what I think of when I think of Jim Shaw. Dave Owen's going to join us as well. David Owens is, he's somebody that has pushed and advocated on behalf of legalizing marijuana in the state of North Dakota. They had come to a deal this legislative session as they worked forward towards legalization of recreational marijuana, and you know what? The whole deal blew up. So the big question I have for Dave Owen is, are you going to push an initiated measure this time? And so we'll find out today as we go down the road. But I'm going to bring in Jim Shaw. Most of you are going to recognize him, his face, his voice. Jim, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Well, thanks for having me. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, this whole TV gig, this is you. How many years did you work in TV broadcast?
About 35.
35.
And I loved it. I loved every minute of it. It's such an exciting profession, and every day is different, and you're always flying by the seat of your pants. It's never boring, and I just couldn't imagine doing anything else.
Well, and I'm lucky that every now and then I'm able to talk you into it. You guest host my radio show. You're writing a column in the Forum.
Right.
That's one of the must-read columns for people like me. I just love your writing.
Well, bless your heart.
Yeah, but I do. I mean, it makes you think. And in fact, that's one of the reasons we wanted to talk to you today, because you wrote a biting article about the North Dakota Legislature and how they chose abusers over victims. Talk people through exactly what you wrote.
Well, there was a bill. Actually, there were 3 bills in the North Dakota Legislature that would have benefited victims of child sexual abuse. This is what we know. We know that when children are abused and raped, it traumatizes them, it shames them, it silences them, it changes their life forever. They don't tell anybody, they don't know what to do, and generally the perpetrator does it again and again and again. Their lives are shattered. So by the time they realize, under current laws, by the time they come to grips with what happened to them, and some of them, not all of them, feel they have the courage to try to do something about it legally, to try to go after the perpetrator, the abuser, the rapist, it's too late. The statute of limitations has expired. So what many states have done, about 25 states, including very conservative states like Alabama, Texas, Tennessee, they opened up windows, 2 or 3 year windows, where victims who were children could come forward and take legal action against their perpetrators. That was the attempt in the North Dakota Legislature, to let these victims of child sexual abuse come forward now when they're adults and they recognize what happened to them and they have a little more courage to seek action. So that took legislation to open up a window. And just to give you an example, Minnesota opened up a window for 3 years. 850 people came forward. 850 victims of child sexual abuse came forward to try to take some legal action. This was the intent. And the sad part about it is the North Dakota Legislature said no. No to victims of child sexual abuse. You're not going to be allowed to do anything. You're not going to be allowed to take legal action. You're just going to have to suffer the rest of your lives. It was shameful. It was indefensible. It was inexcusable. And my heart goes out to these victims who are suffering their entire lives while their perpetrators get away with it forever.
So why do you think that is? I mean, you obviously tracked it, you followed it, you must have watched and listened to the floor debate.
I did.
Every bill in North Dakota comes to the floor, so
right.
The opposition has to show their hands, so to speak. Did they give, I realize there is no decent argument of why they would kill a bill like this, but what reasons did they give?
I'll tell you the reason they give, and then I'll give you my gut feeling what happened. The reason they gave, a lot of them, was, and maybe you heard this in your day, the bill was poorly written, which is bogus. It was not poorly written. It was written, every I was dotted, every T was crossed. This was thoroughly researched. It was compared to other states' legislation. There were groups that have been involved in this that helped out. That argument that it was poorly written, it kind of reminds me, did you ever see the movie Amadeus?
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of the emperor telling Mozart, well, you have too many notes,
Yeah.
which is totally bogus, but you're just looking for some reason. Another argument they made was, well, this hurts it hurts private entities more than public entities. Again, that was totally fabricated. This was thoroughly researched with the Legislative Council, and the Legislative Council found this not to be the case. And the other thing, it wasn't said on the floor, but I think this was going on, is that several legislators thought this was an attack against the Catholic Church, and it wasn't. This bill went far beyond the Catholic Church because the Catholic Church is just a small part of this problem. This bill was about any abuser abusing any child. And we know beyond priests, we know that it comes from relatives. It comes from so-called friends of the family. We know teachers who have done this. We know medical professionals. We know there was a dentist in Fargo who abused dozens of little boys and got away with it. This was against everybody. But somehow, in their mind, the whisper was this was an attack against the Catholic Church. Regardless, it was inexcusable. So many other states have done this and given hope and support and comfort to victims of child sexual abuse. And here the legislature just turned their backs and slammed the door in their faces.
Did the Catholic Church lobby against it?
As far as I know, they did not. They were kind of quiet about this. I know they lobbied against the bill that later died, where if a priest was told about something in confessional that you would have to report it. Yeah, but I don't think they got involved in this one. So this might have been more of a whispering campaign. And again, this is just what I'm hearing secondhand.
Well, you mentioned and made reference to the fact that I was in the legislature. I can tell you this: there's a lot of ways to lobby. There's ways to lobby where you come in at full frontal, and then there's whisper lobby in
Right.
your ear later on. We've been saying, and I've really gone out of my way this time in this legislature to not say the legislature because it drives me nuts. There's a lot of good people there that supported this legislation that you supported.
Right.
Who sponsored the legislation that would have given these victims an opportunity, and who were the ones leading the charge against it?
Austin Shower was the main guy behind this, and I was
Supported it.
Yes, it was
And
his
you've
bill.
worked with Austin Shower.
I worked with Austin, and I observed his committee meetings with his group of experts as he was preparing this legislation, and I saw how determined he was and how they covered every base, and they lined up people to testify. They had 3 people from North Dakota who testified, people in their 60s, one person in their 80s who are still suffering today, and the legislature ignored them. Who opposed? There was a guy, is it Vetter from Grand Forks? He's I'm not sure that, I know he's from Grand Forks, and I can't remember, I would know the name if I heard it, but there were a few others. But again, they didn't even talk about victims. They didn't even talk about how serious this is. They didn't talk about how there were dozens of people in North Dakota who this would benefit. They just came up with this bogus smokescreen to kill this. It was so painful. As I watched the testimony of these people, and it didn't connect for some reason. I don't understand it.
Well, good for Austin Shower for having really it doesn't take much courage to introduce a bill like this. What it takes state power to get after it. And like I mentioned, you worked with Austin in the TV world back in your WDAY days. And
Right.
You brought him over as your lead anchor in KVRR, and he's a man with integrity. I know Austin Shower. I like Austin Shower. He's a Republican from West Fargo. And I'm glad that he brought this debate forth so that you could write about it in the forum, so that you could come on my show and make sure people know about it. Obviously, it's defeated this session, but I like to know who the enemies are of it. I like them. This is statewide TV. I like their names and who they are, and I assure the listening audience of Down the Road that we will make sure they know all the names of the people who fought against it.
Yeah, there were about 3 or 4 who spoke out on the House floor and all said the same, the private thing or wasn't.
Now there
wasn't
there
written well. It was all phony baloney.
Jim, there was other legislation that they defeated as well when it came to abuse, right?
Well, there were 3 bills. The first bill, the main bill, was close, lost by about 5 votes. The other 2 votes lost by 2 to 1. It was like 60 to 30. It was really bad.
Yeah.
I just couldn't believe it, and I felt bad for Austin, who worked his heart out, and Austin is such a passion for trying to assist victims, which he did 2 years ago when he passed, against very tough odds, some legislation dealing with child abuse, not dealing with the sexual, but just beating up little kids, and so God love him for that. But like I said, these people who they were so hoping they would have a chance to do this. And another argument was brought up was, how are the courts are going to go for this? How are the courts going to the courts are going to allow all of these cases and side with these people making the accusations, those who have been abused? And it's like, no, it's not that simple. The person who was abused still has to make his or her case, which is very difficult all these years later. So just because you have the opportunity doesn't mean you're going to get anything about it. A judge and a jury have to be on board.
Well,
but now they don't even have a chance to take it there.
As a brother of a social worker, I can tell you this is out there. And I can also tell you that the fact that they don't get a recourse later in life affects them just as hard as their life goes on, because they see the injustice. I'm not saying justice is a closure, but what I am saying is they deserve it. That's a big part of it as well. When we come back down the road with Jim Shaw, we're going to talk about the legislature as a whole. We're going to talk about the transgender bill and why kids seem to be hunted by this legislature. So stick around as we head down the road.
Howdy folks, it's a Caroline Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our hay-bossing breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at a salad bar, sink your teeth into our famous Caroline burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spoon-rattling pie with a calm roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the gang. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the county line.
Hi, it's me, Anthony Sullivan. And yes, you've actually caught me at home relaxing, because life's been pretty worry-free since I got coverage with American Residential Warranty.
You won't believe what ARW covers. Heating and air conditioning, washers and dryers, kitchen appliances, plumbing, water heaters, electrical systems, flat screens and laptops, even pools and spas, and so much more.
Call American Residential Warranty. They'll get you covered.
1-800-219-1467.
Hi, Hunter Ellis here for Night Hero Binoculars by Atomic Beam. These binoculars let you see anything, even in pitch black darkness. Gotcha.
The secrets are powerful wide-angle atomic beam laser that reveals objects up to 150 yards away, hidden by darkness. During the day, Night Hero gives you 10 times magnification. And when the sun goes down, press the Night Bright button to see clearly in the dark. Light up garbage-eating critters or spot thieves before they even get close.
Call or click now and get Night Hero Binoculars for just $39.99. Order right now and you can double it.
Plus, get our best-selling atomic beam flashlight, just pay a separate fee.
We'll even ship them to you free.
This TV special offer is not available on Amazon. You can get it all, but you have to order now.
Call 1-800-619-1091. That's 1-800-619-1091. Or visit bynighthero.com. That's bynighthero.com. Order now.
Attention! Have you or a loved one suffered from maculopathy, a serious retinal injury, after taking the prescription drug Almiron for interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome? In 2018, a researcher at the Emory School of Medicine linked Elmiron, a prescription drug that treats interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome, to maculopathy, which is sight-threatening and can cause an abrupt change of vision. Call Elmiron Justice for a free legal consultation.
Please call 800-395-5680.
Non-attorney spokesperson. This is a paid advertisement for legal services sponsored by Nightline Legal. Cases assigned on a random basis to participating law firms. This drug remains approved by the FDA. If you or a loved one regularly took Zantac and were later diagnosed with cancer, call right now. You may be entitled to financial compensation. Potential cancers include bladder cancer, colon cancer, kidney cancer, stomach cancer, liver cancer, pancreatic cancer. Do not stop taking a prescribed medication without first consulting with your doctor. Discontinuing a prescribed medication without your doctor's advice can result in injury or death.
Call 1-800-230-9210.
Jim Shaw has served in many facets in the media here across the state of North Dakota. I first knew Jim as a TV reporter, and then he went on to be an executive in broadcasting and basically a columnist as well with the Fargo Forum. I've asked him to spend some more time with us here down the road, and he's been willing to do it. So, Jim, I want to talk to you a little bit about the legislature as a whole. You've been living in North Dakota for 40 years. I mean, this is home.
Right.
You married a North Dakota girl, and we're not going to let you go. You're going to be here.
You sound just like my wife.
Yeah, exactly. So, have you ever seen a legislature this far right?
No.
This far to where I can out conservative you to the point of being such backwoods?
No. This is extreme. It's like they've gone back in time. You can name one bill after another. I mean, forget the child sexual abuse bill, which of course you would expect them to pass it, but you know, the transgender, that was uncalled for. Rescinding the Equal Rights Amendment, trying to ban mask mandates in a state that was hardest hit in the country and had 1 out of every 7 citizens infected and 1 out of every 500 North Dakotans killed by this disease. This is extreme, wacky, insane stuff. And it's like, where is the common sense from the legislature? Where is the leadership? I believe that the legislature has been hijacked by extremists who go far beyond what North Dakota citizens want from their legislators.
The big deal is the state Senate, where we used to be able to rein in the state Senate some of the, the House had gone just how you just described, and the Senate hadn't. There's still a big enough majority where some of the ridiculousness got defeated. That's not there anymore. People like Jim Dutzenrod, Larry Robinson, good, moderate Democrats lost in this last election, and the Jason Heitkamps of the world took over.
Right.
And the next thing you know, you've got that ideology and these aren't original thoughts. These are thoughts that come to them through the Heritage Foundation. They're not sitting there and so passionate about these thoughts that I got to put a bill in like this. They're being handed this by ultra-conservative groups around the country. And I'm going to give you an example of one. Yana Myrdal pushed for the 10 Commandments to be in classrooms.
Right.
She came onto my radio show, right? She comes on the radio show and she says, this is not about religion. This is about education. This is about the ability for students to know that there is a 10 Commandments out there and to have a conversation about the 10 Commandments. No different than if you opened up your book. And I said, well, why couldn't you just leave it in the book if you're having that? And she said, because I think it's important enough to have it be. So I said to her, Jim, I said, Senator Myrdal, tell me the 10 Commandments. And she said, excuse me? I said, tell me the 10 Commandments. I'll give you the first one. Let's get it down to 9. The Lord, I am the Lord thy God.
Right.
Put no God
So
before.
how many did she get?
4.
4.
I think it was 4, maybe 5. You can go back and see the podcast at kfgo.com as part of it. But she didn't know them. So she was pushing for them to be in the classroom. Kids had to learn them, and she didn't know them. How do you justify that?
I don't know. And I am a strong believer in the 10 Commandments, but we know from previous court rulings that this violates the separation of church and state. And there have been many court cases where the idea of putting up the 10 Commandments at a public school or a public setting has been rejected. So for the life of me, I can't figure out why the North Dakota legislature would consider passing a bill that would have to go to court, would cost the taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars that we don't have, and ultimately would lose. What's the point of that?
You know, we hear on down the road, and you in the power that you have of the pen, and me in radio and TV, we pushed hard on the transgender bill to point out how vicious this bill was, how the North Dakota high school activities can deal with it through policies, how they have dealt with it through policy. We pointed out that this group of young kids has the highest rate of suicide of any group of young kids. It was just vicious. I mean, just the Ben Koppelmans of the world that were the advocates and the pushers of this, he never competed at a high school sport in his life. And my argument was, if he had, he'd understand what it truly was about. Teamwork, you know, hard work, making sure that you set goals, and instead, and get out there in life and know what all that curtails, coaching.
Right.
But you know what? He didn't know that. And so what he ended up talking about was how a girl could lose to what was a boy on their birth certificate. That's how short his sight was.
Right.
I don't know, you know, finally they turned it into a proposed study. And the far righters, the Murdals of the world, went ape on it yesterday on the Senate floor.
And that would have been another case they would likely have lost in the courts. But I'm with you. This bill was about bullying. This bill was about discrimination. This bill promoted hatred. As I wrote, try to put yourself in the mind of a teenager who's transgender, whether a boy or a girl in North Dakota. How do you think they react? I know, because I interviewed a few. And it petrifies them. And it says, I'm not welcome in North Dakota. And as you pointed out many times, number one, where's the problem? We've never had a case in North Dakota. And number two, we already have a body that oversees this, the North Dakota High School Activities Association. So let them do their jobs. So, you know, I compare this, let's go back to the child sexual abuse. So we've never had a problem with transgender high school students in sports in North Dakota, but we need to put in a bill to ban them. But we know there's a problem of victims of child sexual abuse, hundreds of them in North Dakota, and we do nothing to help them. Tell me how any of this makes sense.
Well, it's all about a strict ideology on the right in North Dakota. I'm sorry, it is. It's, you know, we talk about the legislature. I got a call from Jonelle Bakke, and it was a call that I spent all night thinking about. She's a Democratic state senator from Grand Forks. And Jonelle says, I listen to your show, I go back and I listen to the podcast, I watch your TV show, and you keep saying the legislature. She said, that isn't fair to me, and that isn't fair to those of us that are fighting against these ridiculous bills. Say the names. Say the names, like Ben Koppelman and Kim Koppelman and people that do this. Say their names, because I want my name put out there as though I was a champion of people that were victims of sexual abuse. And I think we do that too often, Jim. I do.
Right. Well, I assure you that by the end of the legislature, I'm going to be saying lots of names, because I've been taking lots of notes.
Good.
And unfortunately, it's a disgrace what's happening out there.
You know, and here's how the philosophy is. It's like a report card, and it is a report card. Don't kid yourself. You get money based upon that report card. Let me give you an example. The North Dakota Department of Commerce took on certain pieces of legislation that made no sense for them to take on, but they did it. And once you get that, you know, the Ray Holmbergs of the world voted against a study on family leave. And he used to be one of the more progressive Republicans, because the Department of Commerce came out against it, and he didn't want to fail on that report card, Jim.
And that's another one that the legislature just embarrassed itself. You know, they put their head in the sands. Again, we know every year there are hundreds of North Dakota families that have a medical crisis or that have a new child in the family, and it's very difficult to work and make money in the midst of this crisis. And One legislator said, well, I don't know that this is happening. Well, what world is he living in? I don't see this legislature doing anything to improve the lives of the average North Dakotan, and I see them just making life more difficult. And I wish they would think more about enhancing lives rather than putting roadblocks in front of people.
And I want to throw one more. We're over on our time, but you know what? We can go a little over on our time. People who look at me and say they're for local government, they don't want large government. The state shouldn't mandate. The state shouldn't dictate. Fargo was a hotbed of COVID. A hotbed of COVID. Mayor Mahoney came out and said, if you're in Fargo, you will wear a mask. He didn't send COVID police out there arresting anyone. He had people encouraging people to put their mask on, and he stemmed the tide in Fargo. The legislature who runs around, the conservatives in the legislature, the Republicans in the legislature who run around saying less government, took away the ability for the Fargo mayor, because they're at the state level, they know better, the way for the Fargo mayor to control this. I don't get it.
It's wrong on two levels. Number one, let the cities decide. You preach local control, then practice what you preach. And number two, as I alluded to before, North Dakota, very hard hit by COVID. So many people infected, so many people dying. So instead of a response to how can we save our fellow citizens and protect their health, the response is, let's do something so irresponsible that could lead to more deaths and infections. It's like, you can't make this stuff up. Yeah. Where are you coming from with this? It's insane.
Jim Shaw, ladies and gentlemen, I could do this all day with him. You can find his work as a columnist on the Fargo Forum. Inform is where you go to see it. When we come back, we're going to get a chance to visit with David Owens. We're going to talk to him about legalizing recreational marijuana right after this.
Beck News brings you real people and real news. Every weekday on KNDB, KNDM, and KRDK. Start your evening with the Dr. Duke Show at 4. Take a fresh look at current events with Ladies of Another View at 4:30. Go down the road with Joel at 5:30. Watch No Apologies with Becker at 9. Cap off your night with No Filter with Debbie at 10. Beck News. Real people, real news.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and as you know, my passion is to help each and every one of you get the best sleep of your life. That's why I created my new Giza Dreams bed sheets. The first night you sleep on my sheets, you'll never want to sleep on anything else.
Go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen right now to get your very own MyPillow Giza Dream sheets. When you buy one set of sheets, you'll get another set absolutely free.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
Introducing the Cool Turtle, the ultra-comfortable mask enhancer that creates a protective, cool, and breathable space between your mask and your face. Simply slide under any mask or gaiter and immediately feel the refreshing pocket of air surrounding your face. Cool Turtle's ergonomically designed, soft, comfortable shell immediately reduces mask friction, allowing you to breathe and talk in a comfortable environment.
I can actually breathe. With the Cool Turtle, no more sweating.
It's like I don't even have a mask on.
Call now and get not one, not two, but 3 Cool Turtles for just $10. Order now and we'll send you 2 more Cool Turtles free. No fees, absolutely free. Plus, you can get a 10-pack of 4-ply face masks. Just pay a separate fee. This offer is not available on Amazon. Get the real Cool Turtle now.
Call 1-800-270-1219. That's 1-800-270-1219. Or visit getcoolturtle.com. Order now.
Indoor football is back in Bismarck. Bucks football season is right around the corner. Grab a friend or family member for a night of action-packed, hard-hitting entertainment. The Bucks open at the Bismarck Event Center May 8th as they take on the Massachusetts Pirates. Catch the sweetest seats in the house right on the sidelines with VIP service at a Bucks turf table. Available now for single-game purchases. Secure your tickets today by calling 701-595-0771. 0771. 771 595 0771 701 595 0771 701 595 0771 701 595 0771 701 595 0771 701 595 0771 701 595 0771 701 595 0771 701 595 0771 701 595 0771 701 595 0771 701 595 0771 701 595 0771 701 595 0771 701 595 0771 701 595 0771 701 595 0771 701 595 0771 701 595 0771 701 595 0771 701 595 0771 701 595 0771 701 595 0771 701 595 0771 701 595 0771 701 595 0771 701 595 0771 701 595 0771 701 595 0771 701 595 0771 701 595 0771 701 595 0771 701 595 0771 701 595 0771 701 595 0771 701 595 0771 701 595 0771 701 595 0771 701 595 0771 701 595 0771 701 595 0771 7
Beck Communications is now hiring independent sales agents around the state. We're looking for highly motivated individuals to take advantage of this opportunity, selling advertising for our news and sports programming on Beck TV and sponsorships for the Bismarck Bucks indoor football team. Independent sales agents will make 50% commission on their completed sales for all products. Beck TV is the leader in broadcasting local sports, owner of the Bismarck Bucks indoor football team, and originator of newly launched news opinion programming. Submit your application now at careers@bechtel.coop. This is an exciting opportunity you can't pass up. 50% commission for independent sales agents now hiring at Beck Communications.
Well, we all saw what happened in South Dakota, right? It was put in front of the people of South Dakota, and they voted to allow recreational marijuana in South Dakota. Now, this discussion has been going on in North Dakota for quite some time, and a big part of that, it's my belief, is the fact that the senior citizens of North Dakota grew up in a culture where they smoked marijuana. I can make reference to one of my friends that I worked with that fought in the Vietnam War, where I don't think it's any big secret that he smoked marijuana. And so he doesn't see himself as a felon. He doesn't see himself as a criminal. What he sees himself at is no different than somebody who drank a can of beer while they were sitting there wondering if they were going to get shot in Vietnam. So when North Dakota took a look at what South Dakota did, they introduced legislation where they thought they could get their hands around it. They didn't want what happened in South Dakota, for the people to say, look, this is legal, this is going to happen. North Dakota wanted to make the rules up. Well, the bill failed. It failed. In the North Dakota Senate, it failed. And so we're right back to where we were. Now, David Owen was one of the individuals that pushed for legalization of recreational marijuana. He's the one that put the initiated measure out that was deemed to not be allowed to be in front of people, so we never got to vote on it. And I asked him to come on the show, and he's willing to do that. David, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Thank you. Great to be on, Joel.
The best way to start this that I know of is, have you ever smoked marijuana?
Nope.
There. You've never smoked marijuana.
Nope.
And neither have I. But I will tell you this, you put this in front of people, I'll vote for it. I will. I want to be crystal clear about that. David, why do you work so hard on this? Why do you think that recreational marijuana needs to pass in North Dakota?
It's a criminal justice issue, Joel. When the law doesn't reflect reality, the law needs to be changed. You've mentioned that people who smoke marijuana don't consider themselves a felon, don't consider themselves a criminal. Well, I've got bad news for you. If they're caught, they are. If you get caught with any amount in the state, it's a permanent criminal record. It used to be, before we started this project, that it was 30 days jail time. And it was colossally expensive. To put it into perspective, it costs us roughly $40,000 a year for every person that gets put in jail for drug-related offenses. And that is the equivalent of a 4-year tuition full ride scholarship to UND. It's catastrophically expensive and destroys people's lives. Doesn't make sense.
So when you did this before, when you raised this argument before, when you put that petition in front of people like me and we signed it and said, you bet, let's get this phase of our life behind us and join the other states that are already ahead of us on this, you know, what happened to that? What excuse was given on why we didn't get a chance to vote on that?
So the first one that we got to vote on in 2018, the reason they said no was it's poorly written. The one that didn't make the ballot in 2020 was because of the coronavirus pandemic. So in order to go put something on the ballot, you have to collect 13,452 signatures, which means you need large events and large gatherings of people. Well, with COVID, you can't have large gatherings of people. So we asked the Secretary of State, would it be possible to collect signatures online due to the pandemic, as other states have been allowed to do? And we were told no. And so because of the pandemic, we had to make a choice. Do we want to have these events and potentially kill hundreds of people over the course of the petitioning process? Or do we do the right thing and say not this year? And so we did the right thing and said not this year in 2020.
So the measure that was working its way through the halls of the state legislature, I saw it, you saw it. I had you on my radio show once and I said, David, this doesn't represent the argument that you were making. It's way tighter. It's way more constrictive. And you still chose to go along with it. Can you explain why?
So it addressed the number one problem. It didn't address the number 2 and number 3 problem. The number one problem is we do not want people getting a criminal record, or going to jail for marijuana possession or for consuming marijuana. And the bill did address that. It did it in a very, very restrictive way that was certainly not ideal, but at least it resolved our number one problem. And the theory was, if you stop sending people to jail and you allow people to use it, then ultimately we can fix the issues with the system. We can fix the registries, we can gradually up the possession limits. But what we shouldn't do is we shouldn't wait another 2 years to stop sending people to jail. And so if we could get people not going to jail, we were going to support it.
And it did do that. It did. To me, it built a monopoly in certain areas. If you live in the rural area, you were at a disadvantage in some cases. But that's something that, once proven to not be the problem that everyone says it is, I think would have fixed itself. For those people who make the argument, and one of the arguments, David, that was made by, this was at a town hall, by a state senator named Larry Lewick out of Wapaton. And he said one of his big concerns about legalization of marijuana is there's evidence that it's really gotten to the pets, that cats and dogs have really struggled and have become addicted to marijuana. I mean, I'm not kidding you, David. That's one of the arguments that was made. How do you fight against that? How do you debate against that?
There's an old saying in politics, some people you can't reach, so you focus on the ones you can. We're never going to reach a guy like Senator Luke. I know him. It ain't going to happen. So what you do is you go, we can't reach Larry. Let's not waste our time with Larry. Let's work on the other 46. Now, the problem was, as it turns out, there's about 30 of them that you can't reach. So the legislative route ain't going to work. But you just have to, every person you talk to, you go, is this person going to listen? Is this person willing to have a conversation? Or does this person have their mind completely made up? And if they have their mind made up, you move on.
So you said the legislative route is not going to work. That begs the question, because you knew I was going to get here. Are you going to begin with an initiated measure again? Are you going to go separate from the legislative route?
Yes, we are. There's a weird thing that Senator Dever is doing that's going to make it a little bit more complicated. But we are very inclined, reading the room, to realize we're going to do another initiated measure. And we're going to submit that in the next 6 or so months, and then we're going to start collecting.
So some people said that one of the measures that you put forth went too far, that the people that were for legalizing marijuana weren't comfortable with what you were doing in terms of going back into criminal records and going back into individuals that were incarcerated. And is that going to be part of any measure you put forward again?
Well, the funny thing is the Republican legislature ended up thinking that that was the single best idea we had, because they created a record sealing program. They've created multiple theoretical expungement programs over a period of time. So ironically, the people who are complaining about that part, you already have it in your state. So we may not really need to do that anymore because that program already exists. Now, the question is, are we going to tighten up our measure? Yes. We're not going to allow unlimited home grow, unlimited manufacture, unlimited possession, and unlimited distribution. That's just not going to happen anymore.
I think that goes a long ways towards getting the measure passed. I do. You know, in regards to Senator Dever and what he's pushing, make sure people who watch this, because this is as current as it can get, make sure people who watch this tonight know what Senator Dever and some of his supporters are doing.
So what they're doing is they're putting a bill into delayed bills right now. And basically it's going to be a simple constitutional 1 or 2 sentence thing that says the legislature shall create the rules for full legalization. The problem is we know the legislature doesn't want to do it. They've had a chance. They've said no, thank you. So they're trying to give themselves a mandate that they have no intention of acting on. And so we're probably going to end up opposing this.
So when you look at the other states that have gone forth, you look at Denver's always used as an example by the anti-marijuana crowd. When you look at that, David, do you see the problems that they are saying there are? People are not showing up for work, addiction, an expansion and a gateway drug. When you see the things that they say, does the science and the experience back that up?
So Legalize ND did a meta-study of quite a few legalized states, and we went from 2008 to 2018. And we tracked violent crime, we tracked workplace safety incidences, and we tracked one other thing, and we did per capita. And what we found is that in almost every single state with legalization, you see lower crime and you see lower workplace safety incidences. And that's based off of FBI crime data or the correct source for workplace safety incidences. It's all on the website. You can track it. It's fully cited. So no, you see crime go down of all things.
What about the worker and the company? Is any measure that you're going to put forth going to tell me as the manager of a radio station, which I do, and I oversee a number of employees, that I don't have the ability to tell them not to use marijuana during the work hours?
You will 100% have the right to tell them that.
Okay. Because I think that's a big concern by a lot of people as well. When does this, I think you gave me the date. When do you start hitting the ground running when it comes to getting signatures?
So we're finishing drafting. We expect the draft to be done by July. We have some early adopting sponsors. Usually we submit in December and start collecting then. Because of the groundwork from COVID, we think we can start sooner, but we say that every time. So worst case December, best case July.
Didn't the legislature do something that said you and other groups can't be at the state fair?
No, they said we cannot petition without paying for permitting. Okay. So we can't be there without buying a booth.
Okay, I've got it. David, good luck to you.
Thank you,
They
Joel.
were afraid you were going to do this. In the end, they didn't deal with it. You are going to do this.
You're going to reap what you sow.
You bet. I appreciate you coming down the road with us.
Thank you.
David Owen, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, the Chavin trial. We got some video we want to show you that should get your attention. Do you believe you could be on that jury? Do you think there's a case where Mr. Chavin, Derek Chavin, is actually innocent? I saw the video. They wouldn't want me on that jury. When we come back down the road.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and as you know, my passion is to help each and every one of you get the best sleep of your life. That's why I created my new Giza Dreams bed sheets. I started by using the world's best cotton called Giza. It's only grown in a region between the Sahara Desert, the Mediterranean Sea, and the Nile River. It's ultra soft and breathable, but extremely durable. My Giza sheets also include full 21-inch wide pillowcases that will fit over any pillow and deep pocket sheets that will fit over any mattress. The first night you sleep on my sheets, you'll never want to sleep on anything else.
Go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen right now to get your very own MyPillow Giza Dream Sheets. Giza Dream Sheets are available in a variety of colors. Use your promo code, and for a limited time, when you buy one set of sheets, you'll get another set absolutely free.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
Non-attorney spokesperson. This is a paid advertisement for legal services sponsored by Nightline Legal. Cases assigned on a random basis to participating law firms. This drug remains approved by the FDA. If you or a loved one regularly took Zantac and were later diagnosed with cancer, call right now. You may be entitled to financial compensation. Potential cancers include bladder cancer, colon cancer, kidney cancer, stomach cancer, liver cancer, pancreatic cancer. Do not stop taking a prescribed medication without first consulting with your doctor. Discontinuing a prescribed medication without your doctor's advice can result in injury or death.
Call 1-800-230-9210.
Seniors, are you aware that you could pay less for your car insurance?
Seniors can save money on their car insurance.
You might save a little, you might save a lot.
Maybe hundreds of dollars a year.
You might save 5% a year, maybe 10%, 15%, or even more.
That's a lot of money.
So call right now and find out just how much money you might be able to save.
1-800-699-0761. 1-800-699-0761.
Hi, it's me, Anthony Sullivan. And yes, you've actually caught me at home relaxing because life's been pretty worry-free since I got coverage with American Residential Warranty.
You won't believe what ARW covers. Heating and air conditioning, washers and dryers, kitchen appliances, plumbing, water heaters, electrical systems, flat screens and laptops, even pools and spas, and so much more.
Call American Residential Warranty. They'll get you covered.
1-800-219-1467.
Beck Communications is hiring. Beck Communications is seeking qualified candidates for plant technicians in our Wheatland, North Dakota location. Beck Communications is an equal opportunity employer. To view the job details, visit www.beck.com.
Bechtel.coop. To apply, email your cover letter and resume to careers@Bechtel.coop. Beck Communications, making connections that matter.
You know, the Derek Chavin trial is going on right now as we speak, and you know, they're in what, day 2, I believe, of it. What's going to be many days. It's not going to be the OJ trial that people sit on every day. I realize that, but when it gets closer to the end, you know it will be just about that. Now, it's got the attention of the nation. Now, Derek Chavin, for those of you who don't know the name, is the police officer, or the former police officer, that knelt on the neck of George Floyd for over 9 minutes. For over 9 minutes, he knelt on his neck and he killed him. That's what happened. I personally believe that he murdered him. He knew what he was doing. There was calls. There were a lot of people that said, you got to get off his neck. He didn't do it. He didn't do it. And if you think that all in law enforcement agreed with what he did that night, I think you need to take a view of this. Take a listen to this video.
Hey, this is Jenna with Channel 1. Hey, what's up? Hey, so just wanted to let you know about the person with a knife at 2602 Bloomington. And then, I didn't know, you can call me a snitch if you want to, but we have the cameras up for 320's call. Oh, did they already put him in the, they must have already started moving him. And 320 over at Cup Foods.
Okay.
I don't know if they had used force or not. They got something out of the back of the squad, and all of them sat on this man. So I don't know if they needed you or not, but they haven't said anything to me yet.
Yeah, they haven't said anything unless it's just a takedown, which doesn't count, but
okay.
I'll find out.
No problem. We don't get to ever see it, so when we see it, we're just like, well, that looks a little different. All right, thank you. Bye.
Sounds good. Bye.
20, 31, 33, May 25, 2020.
So I'm going to walk through that just a little bit. At the very beginning, you spoke kind of fast, and you identified yourself. Can you describe for the jury what you were saying there?
I told them my name was Jenna and that I was Channel 1 dispatch.
So that's meaning the dispatch for 3rd Precinct.
Correct.
And then you talked about something involving a knife. Is that related to this case at all?
No.
That was from some other call?
Correct.
And then you used the term snitch.
Yes.
What did you mean by that?
At that moment, it was a word that just came out of my mouth, but it's out of the scope of my duties to call a sergeant if there was any use of force.
And so that's what the purpose, well, tell me, what was the purpose of making that call to him and giving him that information?
Voicing my concerns. Like I said, we don't see incidents. My job is mainly all listening.
And by the time you made that call, you said something to Sergeant Pleager about, or did they take him already? By the time you made that call, were you still able to see the video from the street camera?
Yes, the video was still up.
And what did you see at the time that you were making that call?
That nobody was there.
So you were aware an ambulance had come to the scene?
Yes.
But the ambulance was not in the video at that time?
Correct.
So is that the reason why you made a reference to them being gone?
Yes. So I was speaking to the rest of my team over there and asking a question to them while still on the phone with the sergeant.
So probably a better time for me to ask this question, but have you ever, prior to that date, made a call like that to a sergeant?
No.
In your job?
No. She had never made a call like that. And she made reference to the fact that she might be a snitch. You know what that word means. You know exactly what that word means, and you know what must have been going through her mind. As she pointed out, it's out of her realm of duty. It's out of the scope of her duties. So why did she do it? I mean, why did she call and say, look, this happened? Because she knew it was wrong. That's why. She knew it was wrong. She knew that people needed to know in the position where they could control, or not control, but they could be someone who dealt with Derek Chavin. She knew it was wrong. any of you who have watched the video, what you need to do is watch it for the length of the video. I mean, we've all seen, you know, a couple of minutes of it, right? When you watch it for 9 minutes, when you watch the whole video, when you hear the pleas from people on the sidewalk that are videotaping what's going on with George Floyd, when you watch the whole thing, it may change your mind for some of you who don't believe that this was a murder. Now, here's what else I would add to that. In law enforcement, one of the arguments that the Chavin team is making is that this is what he was trained to do. The use of force can be ugly, and sometimes you have to use force, and it has to be tough force. Well, let me just say this to that. He was in control of George Floyd. He had other police officers there that could have helped him make sure that he remained in control of George Floyd. That's the reason for force, is to make sure you get in control of the situation. I don't know whether or not there need to be an arrest of George Floyd. That's a whole nother discussion. It's what happened after that arrest of George Floyd that matters to this nation. And here's the scary part. And when I say scary part, I'm not talking about riots. I'm not talking about Black Lives Matter. I'm not talking about how police officers are going to get treated in the future. What I'm talking about is justice. What I'm talking about is whether or not Derek Chavin can be tried in the circumstances of a police officer, of black-white, in a way that he ends up getting exactly what he deserves. Because you know what? We're able to and about to see a lot of things about our judicial system. I'll be back with some closing comments as we go down the road.
Do you worry about going to the dentist? After all, a visit to the dentist can easily cost $2,000 or more. Well, relax. The Carefree dental card is now available in your area. Call now and we'll send your actual card at no cost today. With the Carefree dental card, you go to the dentist whenever you need and you instantly pay a lot less. Activate your card and you can start using it immediately. From exams and cleanings to more expensive procedures like crowns, dentures, even braces, they're all included with the Carefree dental card. Say you go to the dentist today without any card and your bill is, well, ouch. Wait a minute, let's try that again. You go to the dentist today and show your Carefree dental card, you save $525. The Carefree dental card is just $15.95 a month, so call now and make going to the dentist carefree.
Call 1-800-416-5739 to receive your Carefree dental card information kit. 1-800-416-5739. Call now.
Beck Communications is now hiring independent sales agents around the state. We're looking for highly motivated individuals to take advantage of this opportunity, selling advertising for our news and sports programming on Beck TV and sponsorships for the Bismarck Bucks indoor football team. Independent sales agents will make 50% commission on their completed sales for all products. Beck TV is the leader in broadcasting local sports, owner of the Bismarck Bucks indoor football team, and originator of newly launched news opinion programming. Submit your application now at careers@bechtel.coop. This is an exciting opportunity you can't pass up. 50% commission for independent sales agents now hiring at Beck Communications.
I can't say enough good things about these nano hearing aids.
Real people talking about nano hearing aids.
The hearing quality is great.
Until now, hearing aids used to be too expensive for the average person. Until nano. Call now and you'll get your nano hearing aids for only $297. You'll save $100. When you buy one hearing aid, Nano will give you a second hearing aid free. Call right now.
1-800-213-3815.
Who do you trust with your digital life? Not all cloud backup providers keep your data truly private. Beck Cloud Backup uses advanced multi-layer encryption to keep your family photos, videos, and sensitive business documents secure and only for your eyes. Your Beck Lightband Internet service already includes 50 gigs of free storage to keep your digital life safe and secure. Call us at 701-475-2361 to start using your Beck Cloud Backup today.
Attention! Have you or a loved one suffered from maculopathy, a serious retinal injury, after taking the prescription drug Almiron for interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome?
In 2018, a researcher at the Emory School of Medicine linked Elmiron, a prescription drug that treats interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome, to maculopathy, which is sight-threatening and can cause an abrupt change of vision. Call Elmiron Justice for a free legal consultation.
Please call 800-395-5680.
In radio, I get an opportunity to visit with one of the best broadcasting farm and ranch teams, quite frankly, in the country, not just here in the upper Midwest. Their ratings, well, they're through the roof. Their respect is even further. And the one thing that both of them, both Sarah Heinrich and Rusty Halverson, say all the time and report all the time is how dry we are right now. We're dry. And we're not just sitting there in South Central North Dakota dry. We're dry. I live in the Red River Valley, and I can tell you this, we all could use some moisture. So let's take that a step further. It was windy yesterday, and it's windy today. You're dry, you're windy. When I left Fargo yesterday, there was so much dirt blowing. Well, let's just say you couldn't see some of the things you normally see quarter mile and a half mile out from the interstate. I mean, it was that bad. There's plastic bags just plastered against the interstate fence. It was that bad. The wind was blowing. So let's talk a little bit about a small town named McLeod. Some of you know where that is. Some of you don't know where that is. But there are cowboy towns in eastern North Dakota. It's ranch country, and it's right on the edge of the Cheyenne National Grasslands. And because it's so dry, and because of the fact that a lot of that is pasture ground, it's susceptible to fire like nothing else is. Last night, 5 different firefighting groups, 5 different towns, fire districts fought fire in McLeod. And today they're doing it some more. That's right. Today they're doing it some more. Now, for you volunteer firefighters out there and the families of volunteer firefighters out there, I want you to know that many of us, if not all of us, respect what you're doing. And thank you for what you're doing. I stress the word volunteer. These people are out there fighting these fires. They're on the front line, trying to save homes, trying to save farms, trying to save ranches. It's just unbelievable, the dedication and training that they have when it comes to what they're doing as a volunteer. So I ask you, what are you doing to make sure that we don't have any more fires? If you're a smoker, I know what you shouldn't be doing. It's been good riding with you, folks.